Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today is a solved case day, and this is the solved case of Jane Simm, who was a 29-year-old woman who literally lived just down the road from me in Bankerfelin, and sadly she was murdered. And this happened in 1990, which is the year I was born. Yeah, I thought I'd do this one because I'd never heard of it, even though I'm just down the road from there. I never ever heard of it. So yeah, I honestly couldn't get over it when I heard about it. I was like, how come I didn't know about this? There's so many of these stories are like that. I've never heard of half of them until I research them. Then I'm like, I see them. But yeah, for its time, this was a really shocking crime that happened, and nothing like this happens around here. It's a quiet town. Carmarthenshire is not much goes on around here, it's out in the country. But I apologise for the noise. That is my guinea pig having a drink in the background. Very thirsty today. But yeah, so this is the story about Jane Simm. The next voice you're going to hear is future me, where I'll be voicing over my makeup application. And yeah, just a warning, this does contain murder, so pretty much all of my videos are going to contain some sort of thing that might upset people. So yeah, I'm just putting it out there, giving you a warning. If you don't like murder and stuff like that, then maybe don't watch this. But yeah, let's get on with the story. This is the murder of Jane Simm. When we think of Wales, we think of green fields, lovely countryside, and an overall very friendly and laid-back place. Sadly, all that changed at 10 p.m. on the 21st of June 1990. The small Welsh villages of Meidrim and Bankerfelin were in for a fright, as one of the most shocking crimes in this area was about to take place. On Thursday, June 1990, at 10 p.m, a local farmer was driving through the area. On his travels, he saw a red metro car parked on a farm track. The farmer thought maybe she had broken down or was lost, so he went over. As he looked through the window, he was horrified to see a half-naked woman who had been beaten and had passed away. As soon as he realised what had gone on, he quickly rang 999. At the same time the farmer had made the call, another phone call had come in from a husband worrying about his wife. He said she'd gone missing from their farm near Meidrim. His wife was 29-year-old Jane Simm. Shortly after, it was confirmed that it was also Jane Simm that was in the car. Jane had suffered a number of skull fractures and other internal and external injuries. This was the result of being violently and repeatedly struck in the head. As you can imagine, the locals were panicking because something like this had never happened around these parts. Jane was a young woman, a country girl, a well-liked lover of horses. She had only moved to the Carmarthenshire countryside 2 years previously. Adding to the dread and terror of this awful murder was the evidence that appeared to suggest that the killing was sexual in nature. The villagers were frightened to leave their homes. They were thinking, what if it was an isolated attack? What if it wasn't? What if it was the start of a horrendous spree? One woman said, "It's absolutely shocking to think that something like this could have happened near here. It's so quiet and everyone knows everyone else." Another woman said, "Mrs. Simm was quiet, not many people knew her, but I can't think of why anyone would want to kill her." The whole community feels very shocked, and is extremely frightening to think that someone could do something like that. The villagers would not feel safe until whoever did this was caught. The Police were looking hard to find answers, but nothing was coming up. They had no real clues to help solve one of the county's worst recorded crimes. Detective Superintendent Clive Jones said, "It's the early stages and we are waiting results of tests from Home Office pathologists before we can positively pinpoint the exact time of death. We are anxious for the woman spotted by a postman early on Thursday morning to come forward." Howell Rees was one of the first officers on the scene. Howell was Chief Inspector of Carmarthen at this time for the Dyfed-Powys Police Division. He said, "When we first arrived at a small country lane on the outskirts of Bankervelin, we discovered the body of a woman in a car, which resulted in a full murder investigation being initiated. It was a big shock to the communities of both Maidrim and Bankervelin, and the area was cordoned off so that work can begin in earnest to identify the victim and establish the circumstances behind her murder." Neighbours were clearly very alarmed and distressed by what had happened. To have a crime of this nature and violence on their doorsteps. Police knocked on every door, questioning every neighbour about what they had seen or heard that Thursday. Every vehicle that entered Maidrim or Bankervelin was stopped. They were collecting as many witness reports as possible. Jane had lived in Hertfordshire until September 1988, where she moved to West Wales with her partner. She worked part-time at the Penlan Riding Centre in St Clears. She also kept horses on her land. Jane moved to Wales because it was quiet and tranquil, and she could be near horses. John Owen, Mrs Simm's father, said, "Whoever did this must be caught quickly." He also said, "The whole family is shocked. Jane was a lovely, outgoing sort of girl with everything ahead of her." John had visited Carmarthen in March and said Jane seemed very happy and was enjoying life to the full. He said, "I hope that the police catch whoever did this terrible, wicked thing as soon as possible." She moved to Wales because she is a country girl at heart and wanted somewhere of her own, in a quiet, rural setting. She was lovely. She was such a lovely girl. If anyone can help police, I hope they will come forward as quickly as possible. The police already had a suspect in mind. His behaviour was odd. His demeanour was shifty, and some of the locals even said that he gave them the creeps. This was Dr. Alan Simm, the husband of Jane Simm. Alan was the one that placed the other call on that evening. He said she had been on a shopping trip to Cardiff and had never come home. Jane and Alan had married in 1989 in Bishop, Stratford, Herefordshire. Nearly a year later, the couple moved to Wales. Dr. Simm was 34 at the time of his arrest and was charged with murder on the 27th of June 1990, 6 days after Jane's body was found. He was in Carmarthenshire Magistrates' Court the next morning. Crowds gathered outside the Guildhall Square in Carmarthen town centre to watch Mr. Simm being scuttled into a police van. Mr. Simm denied the charge of murder and admitted to manslaughter, even though he had openly spoken about plotting to kill Mrs. Simm. Mr. Simm described their relationship as strained, with frequent arguments. He also added that he was going to leave his wife and have a fresh start and a new identity. He said by this time, though, he didn't see any other way out. Only killing his wife made sense. Mr. Simm said, "I planned to anaesthetise her, then inject her with a solution of saturated potassium chloride. This chemical interferes with the electrical activity of the heart and effectively stops it. It looks like you have had a cardiac arrest, and it's almost impossible to trace." He said he was surprised with himself because he couldn't do it. He said on the Thursday morning he had packed a bag ready to leave Jane. This, in turn, then caused an argument, and they both ended up on the ground, said Mr. Simm. Then he fatally hit her in the head. Gerard Elias, QC Prosecuting, said, "The truth is that he killed his wife, placed her body in the back of a car and drove it around to where it was found. He took steps to pull the wool over the eyes of anyone investigating." His alibi was going to be proceeding with a biology course he had planned for 3 students on the same day he killed his wife. But he had called the students up in the morning and asked them to come later. They then went to have their biology course, not knowing that their tutor had killed his wife earlier that day. Mr. Sims called the police once the students left. The motive for his murder was so he could claim thousands of pounds in life insurance, as they were suffering some financial problems. Officers found coded plans dotted around the house, which gave times and how he would kill his wife. The evidence was clear. Mr. Simm had smashed his wife's head against the wall, only stopping when he knew she was dead. He then wrapped her head in a towel and drove her to the lane. He went on to remove items of clothing so it looked like she had been a victim of a sex attack. The judge saw through Mr. Simm's lies and found him guilty of murder, handing him a life sentence. So that is the case, guys. What do you think? Personally, I can't believe it happened so close to where I live, and I never heard of it. I don't know. He obviously got what he deserved. I feel so sorry for the family. The family must have been devastated. Let me know your thoughts about this case down below. Everything that I've used in this video will be listed down in the description below. Bye guys, thanks for watching and listening.